Hello and welcome to the MCAT Science Review video on the anatomy of the digestive system. My name is Brad Ackerson, and if I were you, I'd grab a quick snack because this is a topic that is certain to make you hungry. We will begin with an overview of the different epithelium cell types, after which we will work our way down the digestive system in the same way that food travels, from the top down, beginning in the oral cavity, through the pharynx, the esophagus, and stomach, and ending in the small and large intestine. Our learning goal for this review video is to understand the anatomy of the digestive system at a level that the MCAT requires. The learning goal will allow us to answer questions such as the one at the bottom of the screen about water reabsorption. Continuous sheets of epithelial cells surround our body, creating a physical barrier. These cells constitute a first border and primary protection against the outside world. For this purpose, these cells are tightly joined and may also be ciliated. Epithelial cells are bound to a connective tissue layer known as the basement membrane. It is important to note that on the MCAT, most of the epithelial lining our body cavities are referred to as mucous membranes. We can classify different epithelia according to the number of layers they have and the shape of their cells. Let's start with layers. Simple refers to one layer, stratified means multiple layers, and pseudostratified means that it appears to have multiple layers due to differences in cell height, but in reality only one exists. In terms of shape, cells may be squamous, cuboidal, or columnar. Epithelia cells can be any combination of these cell types. Remember that they line each of the body cavities that we will discuss, beginning with the oral cavity. The mouth is food's first stop in our digestive system. The mouth carries out both mechanical digestion through chewing and grinding, as well as chemical digestion from salivary amylase, one of our important MCAT enzymes. 3 distinct salivary glands aid in both mechanical and chemical digestion and secrete the salivary amylase. Just before entering the esophagus, the tongue forms the food into a ball called a bolus. Moving down the tract, the pharynx is the cavity that leads from the mouth and the nose to the esophagus. The pharynx also connects the larynx, which is part of the respiratory tract. Failure of food to properly go down the esophagus results in choking. Luckily, under normal conditions, food does not have a choice due to the epiglottis. The epiglottis folds down and covers the trachea during swallowing, ensuring that food does not enter the larynx or the lungs. When food finally enters the esophagus, it is moved to the stomach. The upper one-third of the esophagus is made up of striated skeletal muscle and is therefore under voluntary control, while the lower 2/3 is made up of smooth muscle under involuntary control. To remember this on test day, consider the fact that you can initiate a swallow, but you have no control on the movement of food after that. Where the esophagus meets the stomach, there is a muscular ring called the cardiac sphincter. The stomach, located on the upper left side of the abdomen, uses acid and enzymes to digest food in a fairly harsh environment. The stomach mucosa contains the gastric glands, which are composed of 3 cell types: mucus cells, chief cells, and parietal cells. Food leaves the stomach through the pyloric sphincter. The bulk of chemical digestion, as well as most absorption, occurs in the small intestine, which is divided into 3 sections: the duodenum, jejunum, and the ileum. The MCAT expects you to know the order of these 3, so just remember the stock market and the Dow Jones Index, DJI, or duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. The small intestine is quite long, around 6 meters, and features villi and microvilli to increase the surface area and aid in absorption. The large intestine is larger than the small intestine in terms of diameter. However, it is only 1.5 meters long and therefore shorter than the small intestine in overall length. It is primarily involved in water absorption and is divided into 3 segments: the cecum, the colon, and the rectum. Let's see how the MCAT will test these concepts. Here is our first question. Go ahead and read it and choose an answer. If you chose C, you are correct. This was a simple anatomy question that requires a recollection of the anatomy of the stomach. If needed, the easiest way to remember the order of the sphincters is that they fall alphabetically. C comes before P, cardiac before pyloric. Take a moment to choose an answer for the second question. And the correct answer is B. On test day, we would hopefully narrow this down to either B or C. And remember that the small intestine is primarily responsible for digestion and absorption, and the large intestine is responsible for water reabsorption. This may seem like a lot of information, but remember that every effort put in now will be worth it when you get points on test day. That said, let's take a look at some of our MCAT takeaways. The epithelium protects and allows for selective reabsorption. Food first travels through the oral cavity, pharynx, and esophagus, and enters the stomach where the majority of the mechanical digestion takes place. The small intestine is responsible for chemical digestion and absorption, while the large intestine is responsible for water absorption. Well, that concludes our MCAT Science Review video on the anatomy of the digestive system. Thank you for watching, and as always, best of luck on test day.